Assalamualaikum. My name is Syazwani Atira binti Syahrin, and today I will be presenting to you my research finding. First of all, my research title is Motivation in Education, Factors and Strategies for Classroom Engagement. Next, we are going to look at the objectives. So what are the objectives for these studies? There are two objectives for these studies. So the first one is to identify the factor that cause lack of motivation among students and the effect on their willingness to engage in their studies. The second objective is to develop and recommend effective motivational strategies that educators can use to maintain classroom engagement. The reason why I choose to do this research is because recently I found a news that 10,000 students do not sit for SPM paper Bahasa Melayu in 2024. So I think it is really important for us to acknowledge this issue and find out what the reason behind students' lacks of engagement. And next, we are going to look at the literature review that I used for this research. There are two literature that I referred to, which are theoretical perspective and articles. So first of all, we are going to look at the theoretical perspective. The first theory that I used is goal orientation theory by Dweck and Elliott. This theory focuses on students are focusing on understanding the lesson and personal growth instead of looking for external validation, such as from their parents or from their peers. This will teach students to enjoy their learning for its own sake. And the second one is social cognitive theory by Bandura. So this theory is about self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is students' belief in their ability to succeed in tasks, and we can see the differences between high self-efficacy student versus low self-efficacy student. Next is the literature review on the articles part. There are 3 articles that I used for this research, and I will be explaining to you the summary for this article. So the first article, the title is Self-Efficacy and Human Motivation by Skang and Di Benedetto, published on 2020. So based on the article, the meaning of self-efficacy is individuals' belief in their ability to learn or perform specific tasks at designated levels. So based on the articles, this article explains what influences brought by self-efficacy. So there are 3 influences, which are goal setting, effort, and persistent achievements. So next is self-efficacy is shaped by internal and external factors. These factors are interrelated factors. So there are 3, which are personal, behavioral, social, and environment. So in this article, it is also stated that self-efficacy in education, and the factors affecting it. So the factors that affecting self-efficacy in education are goal setting, feedback from teachers, modeling, and social comparison in class. So, and based on this article 2, we can see that there are a few theoretical adaptation. So some of it is persistence, maintenance and transfer, which is the ability of students to maintain what they learn in class, and for the persistence is the persistence or continuous effort that made by the students, and cultural and contextual, which are very related to students in Malaysia, and a learning context that determine student motivation in class. Next, we are going to look at the second article, and the title for this article is Factors of Increasing Student Motivation in Educational Settings, a Review. So this article focusing on the key factors that influences students' motivation in education setting. So in this article, there are a few theoretical frameworks and motivation models stated. So the first one is mastery goals, which is focusing on students' personal growth instead of when they are looking for validation from other people, from their family, from their teachers, and from their peers. And then expectancy value theory, and lastly expectancy value and cost. So second things that being discussed in this article is the learning modes. There are multiple learning modes, and learning modes are important to increase students' motivation in class. For example, learning, they can use online learning, social media, even though it can be a bit distracted for students. However, if it is used wisely, it will bring a lot of help. And then collaborative learning and feedbacks from teachers. So educational tools and designs also discussed in this article. This is one of the most important part in learning session to increase students' motivation, and they refer to a few educational psychology ideas, which are extrinsic motivators, self-efficacy among students, and fostering self-directed learning for students, and also self-regulation to help them maintain their focus on study, especially on hard subjects. Last one, the third article. The title for this article is The Impact of Socio-Economic Status on Academic Achievement. So in this article, we can see that there are a few factors influencing academic success, which are parental income and parents' level of education, school resources, and extracurricular activities at school. So based on this article, we can see the research methodology is they gather sample from 300 secondary students from various levels of socioeconomic status, and the measurement tools used in this research is SES indicator, which is refers to parental income, parents' education level, and their occupation. And the second measurement tools are the academic performance that influenced by the socioeconomic status of the family. Conclusion from this article is achievement gap do exist due to difference in socio-economic, and there are exceptions for students who still able to achieve success despite come from low income family, but the difference are quite large. And then the third one is policy implication are important to provide help for unfortunate students. So in order for us to make a change, this article stated a few policy implications that should be done to help students that come from low income family. Moreover, we are going to look at the methodology aspect of this research. So method used for this research is qualitative research. It is context dependent, and the results are focusing on the situation that influenced by social, environmental, or cultural, and we can see that it is focusing on participant experience, which are the teachers. And for this interview, I interviewed two female teachers. Both teacher in secondary school in Kuala Lumpur. And for teacher A, she is in her late 30s with 21 years experience in teaching. Meanwhile, teacher B is in her early 20s with 2 years experience in teaching, which is this interview conducted for veteran and novice teacher. And for the data collection procedure, I conducted the interview through Google Meet, and it was recorded. And for teacher A, she took about 50 minutes, and teacher B only took 12 minutes to answer. And this interview consists of 10 questions, 5 questions for part 1, which is focuses on the cause of which is the factors that lead to unmotivated students, and the part 2 is strategies to overcome this issue. For example, one of the questions from the interview is, in your opinion, what are the most effective methods in motivating students who are unmotivated? Moreover, we are going to look at the data analysis and discussion. So first of all, these are the 5 main findings that I found in this interview. Let's take a look at the first one. So the first one is internal and external factors affect students' motivation. So from the interview, I knew that there are a few factors that really affect students' motivation. For example, their lack of goal in study, so they didn't know what they need to prepare for in the future. Second one is there are other external factors like environment in class, or like peer support, maybe their broken relationship with their families, and their socioeconomic status that actually affected their motivation. The second one is teaching method impacts students' motivation. So for these findings, it is related to goal orientation theory. When students do not know what they have to expect, or they do not know what they want to be in the future, it will disturb their mindset and their belief. So it is really important for teachers to choose a suitable teaching methods to improve their motivation. The third one is class environment is important to motivate students. So based on my interview, as mentioned by the first teacher, the class environment should be conducive for students to learn efficiently. For example, in class, if the class is too bright, it will disturb their eyesight. Eventually, the students will lose interest in class. And the second teacher also mentioned that class should be a safe zone for students, for them to learn and make mistakes. And then we can see that family and socioeconomic status also influence students' motivation. This is because one of the teachers actually mentioned that students who come from low income families, they have to do other things than study, which is they have to do a part-time job, which will disturb their focus in class and will cause lack motivation in study. And lastly, we are looking at the effective motivational strategies. So for these findings, it is related to one of the theory also, which is social cognitive theory. So effective motivational strategies actually can help with students' self-efficacy. So with right feedbacks from teachers, the students will be able to be confident with themselves, and they will believe in themselves to actually achieve or complete a task. Moreover, I am going to discuss about the similarities and differences between teacher 1 and teacher 2. So let's take a look at the similarities between these teacher first. So the first similarity is both acknowledge internal factors, which are classroom environment and teaching methods, and external factors which are family issues and socioeconomic status. So in the interview, both teachers mentioned about these factors. They do believe that these are the things that should be looked at for them to maintain their students' engagement in class. Next, the second similarity is both agree positive reinforcement is effective to motivate students. So both teachers mentioned in the interview that when they are giving feedback to their students, they will start it positively by praising their strengths, and then they will proceed to acknowledge their weaknesses and correct their mistakes. So the third similarity is both teachers are encouraging sense of community in class. So both teachers do believe that great peer support in class would help students to grow. It also will help them with their self-efficacy and for their confidence in class, especially when they do group works. And the fourth similarity is both acknowledge conducive class would help students' engagement in class. So comfortable situation environment in class would definitely help students' motivation. And we're moving on to differences between these two teachers. So the first difference is teacher 1, I can see that in the interview her explanations are more detailed. Meanwhile, teacher 2, her explanation are brief and general. I think this is because of the differences between their years of teaching. So we can see that the teacher 1, she teach in school for 21 years, meanwhile teacher 2 only 2 years. So this really determine whether they are able to understand the students or not. So therefore, teacher A could provide a better and detailed explanation on the factors of students' lack of motivation. And the second difference is teacher 1 focuses more on internal and external factors that demotivated students, meanwhile teacher 2 focuses on student lack of future goals. So I think this outcome really determined by how the current issue actually influenced the teacher. So as we can see that the teacher 1, after long years of teaching, she had developed a great relationship with the students. Therefore, she knew what the problems faced by her students, and then she will be able to list the internal and external factors that affected her students. Meanwhile, the teacher 2, she actually influenced by the current issue. Like I said, lots of students nowadays, they didn't take important examination like SPM seriously because they are lack of future goals. So teacher 2 do think the same. And the third difference is the teacher 1, her motivational strategy started from individual approach. Meanwhile, teacher 2, she believes that class is safe space and create supportive environment for the students. So we can see that over the years, teacher 1 had developed great relationship with her students. Therefore, she do things that in order for her to solve the problem, she has to approach the students one by one for her to understand their struggles and find the better solution for them. Meanwhile, teacher 2 think that in order for the students to grow, to be motivated, the class environment need to be conducive, and it should be a safe zone for them. When I say about conducive, the class environment should be comfortable for them to learn, and safe space means that the students are allowed to make mistakes, and everyone should be supportive. Based on the interview, I did a thematic analysis, and these are the broader themes and the sub-themes that I found. So the first broader themes is classroom environment and motivation, and for these themes, the sub-themes are overcrowded classroom, peer influence, and conducive learning space. So these themes focuses on the environment that will help students to increase their motivation. And the second broader themes is role of educators in motivation, and the sub themes for this is ineffective teaching methods, engaging teaching strategies, and teacher support. So these themes focuses on the learning process and the role of educator. And the third broader theme is personal motivation factors, followed by the sub-themes, lack of future goals, self-efficacy, confidence in learning. So this relate to students' ability to set their goals in order for them to maintain their motivation in study. And then the last one is social factors in motivation. The sub-themes for this is emotional support from peers and teachers, parental influence, bullying, and peer pressure. So social factors is the factors that come from around the students, which is the friends, teachers, and their parents, and how these people play the role to help them gain motivation to study. We have reached to the end of the presentation. So this is the summary. All in all, this research focuses on factors and strategies for students' motivation in class based on two different perspectives from veteran and from veteran and novice teacher. So based on the interview and all the data that I have gathered, my recommendation is Ministry of Education should provide help or aid for unfortunate students. As we know from the interview, there are lots of students that are affected by their financial status. So I really think that our Ministry of Education need to take some actions to stop them from quit their school, their study, and this should be able to help decrease or even stop further damage in their life. Next is the possible research. I think this is the research that could be done in the future. So one is research on socio-economic status. We need to know more and more of the factors about socio-economic problem among students, and with that we can know what the better solution for them in order for them to continue their study despite come from a low income family. And last one is research on classroom as safe space. I think we need to know we need to conduct a research to know insights from students, what kind of classroom and what kind of schools that they would label as safe space, as their safe space. From that we can create more safe environment for students to learn, to make mistakes, to even ask questions in class, because these are very essential in learning process. And next we are going to look at the snippet of the interview.
Okey. Soalan pertama, berdasarkan pengalaman teacher, apa punca utama pelajar biasanya hilang motivasi dalam pelajaran? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Dengar? Okey, teacher, nama teacher Nur Hasina binti Nasir daripada SMK Rumpin. Dah lama lah teacher dekat di SMK Rumpin ni sejak posting. Okay, cuma tidak mengajar dalam subjek mengikut Islam. Tapi berdasarkan pengalaman teacher mengajar dalam beberapa subjek. Di antara punca-punca yang menyumbang kepada kurangnya motivasi pelajar, yang pertama pengaruh dalam dan pengaruh luar lah. Okay. Antara faktor pengaruh yang dalam, dalam persekitaran sekolah, suasana kondusi kelas sendiri. Kalau kelas yang agak ramai, student dia ramai, dia